Hey everybody, I wanted to make this video because as a math teacher, I notice way too many students miss way too many questions that can easily be identified by looking at just the graphing part of the graphing calculator. So, depending on what your school provides, you may use a TI-84 or a TI-Nspire or maybe even a Casio. Um, you'll need to learn, it's important that you need to learn the ways to use the graphing calculator to get what I'm about to show you, because I'm going to show you in Desmos. Well, Desmos is the most simplified graphing calculator version that I've ever used. So Desmos is really great if you're working at home or if a specific calculator type isn't required. Other than that, you'll need to learn how to do what I'm going to show you in this video. So you can use the graphing calculator for so many algebra type problems, and especially if it's a multiple choice test. Because let's say you don't know how to do it by hand, you didn't pay attention the best, or you just don't understand at all. Well, you can still figure it out using the answer choices and using what's given in the question, just by graphing it. So I wanted to start off by just doing a couple of solving problems. You know, everybody kind of sweats a little when they have to solve. So it doesn't matter the function type. If you have something on the left-hand side of the equal sign and something on the right-hand side of an equal sign, you can graph that, okay? So this will help you. The only way you can't get this answer is if there is going to be an imaginary solution or an extraneous solution. But those are special circumstances, and you don't really have to worry about special circumstances that much in terms of the whole test usually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the graph. I'm going to type in the left-hand side of the equal sign into one side. And then since it just equaled a constant number of 16, you can type in y equals 16. You can type in f of x equals 16. It all depends on what type of calculator you're using. But what you're going to do is you're just going to click, or you just need to find the intersection of where they meet. And so if you're solving for x, then the x coordinate here is going to be your answer. My answer is going to be -4 and 6 2/3. Okay. You could also type in the equation all in one line. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you x-intercept, these vertical lines. And that's going to be where the x answers are going to be at -4. And then, see, Desmos won't show me the exact number here. I can tell it's between 6 and 8, um, between 6 and 7 if I zoom in some more, but I can't tell the exact number. That's why I really like to stress to my kids that just grab the left hand side into one side, the right hand side into another side, and get the intersection. And you can see if I had it typed it all in right there, um, they meet right. They all meet at the same point. This is also really good to use it for a no solution problem, because if I change this to a negative solution, then let me zoom out. You'll see there's no intersection. So if there's no intersection at all, then you have no solution. So that's what's really great about doing the left-hand side into one line and the right-hand side into another line. Because sometimes you type things in, and if you typed it in on one line, you might have typed it in correctly and just nothing shows up, even though there is a solution. I've noticed that sometimes. I don't know exactly why. It could be Windows settings or something like that. Um, but yeah, so here's another example, and that is I'm solving a quadratic equation. I have x squared on one side, I have x squared on the other side. It'd be, kind of tricky to solve it by hand. Um, so I'm going to type the left-hand side into one line, the right-hand side into another line, and then, yeah, you might have to zoom out and get the intersections, but that's all you're doing. Here's the first answer. This is my x answer. There's my y answer. Usually your teacher's just asking for the x answer. And then if I scroll up here, there's my other solution. Sometimes there's more than one solution. Okay, so let's look at some other type of problems. Here I have, what's the function that has a vertex of -1, -2, and contains the point 516? Well, all your answer choices are going to be functions. So all you got to do is graph your answer choices and verify that those points are not there, or are there, excuse me. So I'm going to graph these two options. So I have everything graphed right here. And what's nice about Desmos is you can click to identify the vertex. Other calculators, you have to do certain commands to get the vertex, but every graphing calculator will show you the vertex, and they'll show you points on the graphing calculator by looking at the table. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you the table of each of these graphs. And as I said before, depending on what calculator you are using, you can expand the table various ways. Some you just scroll up and down and you find the values. For this one though, I need to find 516 in the table and -1, -2, but I just clicked to verify that and you can see that in the table already. So just type in the number 5 and you see you get 70 here, so that's not the answer. But if I type in 5 here, I get 16 there. So this black function is my answer. That's all it took. Okay, so here's another very similar type of example. What's the function that has x-intercepts at x equals -3 and x equals 1 and contains the point 3, -4? Graph your answer choices and need to contain all three of those points that are given to you. Very often you'll have answer choices that will contain one or two of them. So you need to check and make sure that it has all three. So I'm going to go back to my graph and I'll graph my answer choices. And you can see here, I purposely chose two graphs that have the same x-intercepts. So really, I just need to check to see if this third point at 3, -4 is there. So just pull up the table again and then just type in the number 3 and you can see that it is going to be the black one at the top because this is 3 +4, this one's 3 -4, and that's all it took. Okay, this might be very challenging for you to do it by hand, but if it's multiple choice, it's very simple. Just follow those steps, look at the graphs. Another really common thing for algebra is to like convert functions from one form to another, or to factor. You might have heard that before. Factor this into factored form. So really, that's just if you're converting a function to another function, you're just changing the physical appearance of the equation, but the graph will still look exactly the same. So what you want to do is you'll want to graph the original and you'll want to graph your answer choices, and whatever overlaps is simply going to be your answer. So here I have all of these graphed, and look, I only have one graph. So these are in different forms. This one's in intercept form, this one's in vertex form. It doesn't matter the form type, it just matters if it overlaps. So here's the original. Here's the new one. You can see that they're exactly the same. Here's the third graph. It's exactly the same. As long as it overlaps, that's the answer. So if I change one number here, it's not going to overlap anymore, and I know that's the wrong answer. So that's really all you got to look for those if you're factoring or converting forms. So what about plugging in values? You can plug in values like using the scientific calculator function, just plug it in parentheses, replace x with the number, um, or replace y and then solve it. But like I said, I'm just trying to show you using the graph. So here's a function and it says, what is the output when the input's -3.5? An input value is an x value. So all you need to do is I need to graph the original function and then I need to type in x equals -3.5. And so if I do that, here's the original, I'll zoom out, and then you just need to look for the intersection or intersections. And then this is my answer. X would be x is -3.5, and then y would be 49. Okay, so that would be the answer. I'm looking for the output value there, right? Um, so here for the function, what is the input when the output is 15? So output is a y value, so I need to look for when y is 15. So that again is really simple to do in the graphing calculator. Type it in, type in y equals 15. You see it intersects twice. Get both of those coordinates. The x values are going to be your answers. Those are your input values. What about transformations? That's very common for algebra to cover. You cover transformations a lot in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. So what function opens down and has been translated left 2 and down 3? So you got to know that most functions start with the vertex at 0, 0 or have a starting point at 0, 0. And so you just got to look to see how that vertex move to see something that goes left 2, down 3, and then most functions open up naturally. So, or move in a positive direction. So here I have them graphed. They're both opening down. And then if you click on the vertex, you see that one went 2 to the right and 3 down, and then this one went 2 to the left and 3 down. So, transformations are something that you can just easily identify just by graphing it. Okay, so yeah, the answer would be this blue one right there. And then the last thing that you can do that I can think of at the top of my head at least is identifying domain and range. So many times your teacher will give you a function that says, what's the domain and range for this? If you don't know, just graph it. Sure, there are ways to figure this stuff out by hand and recognize what the domain and range would be just by looking at the function type. But typing this into the graph gives me a graph of this. So you'll want to zoom out and you want to look for the shape of the graph. Okay, so if a graph is moving left and right freely, then it's all real numbers. And that's on the domain that I'm talking about, that's moving left and right freely. So if it's moving up and down freely, the range would be all real numbers. But this one is moving left and right freely. You know it's moving freely if it's not curving to avoid hitting a value or a clear starting and stopping point. So looking at it moving left and right, none of that's happening. But moving up and down, it can only go from this point and upwards. So I know I'd look at my y values since range deals with the y values, and I know that this range is y is greater than or equal to negative 49.125. So knowing how to do these 9 types of problems here can get you a passing grade on probably every single multiple choice algebra test you take. Sometimes you'll get an A or a B. It just depends on how many open-ended questions there are, right? But if it's a test that's all multiple choice, then there's no reason not to get a passing grade. So thanks for watching. I hope this helped. Leave any questions or comments, things that you'd like me to show you how to do on the graphing calculator in the comments below. Thanks. Bye.